I am ready to get started with repots. You guys, I am in a crazy mood and so sorry this video was so delayed. I asked you guys for a Q&A over a month ago now in the community tab, and I'm just now getting around to filming it. So again, my apologies, but I am ready to sit down, do some repots and chat with you guys while I do the repots. I hope this angle is okay to do the repots. I might have to bend you down a little bit, or I could try holding the plant up. It's pretty like self-explanatory. Honestly, I have only 2 that I'm doing in pon, and the rest I'm repotting into my aeroid mix. I have several plants that are in stratum that need to be potted up. I have a couple that just need to be upsized. I am propagating 1, and yeah, this should be enough to carry me through the video. And I think I have everything here. So it's mostly going to be focused on the questions, but I'll explain what I'm doing as we go through them. I have my computer here. I honestly forgot what you guys asked because it's been so long. I think there was a good mix of questions, so yeah, it should be good. What shall we do first? Let's do the caramel marble. I'm going to surprise you guys as we go along. I'm not going to show you the plants all at once. So it'll be fun as we go through the video. Do you guys remember the caramel marble that I got? So it put out this leaf here as it was like unfurling. I think it's finally burned off or hardened off, so you can actually see all the beautiful tones. And this is the newest one here, and you can actually see some of the waviness coming in, and it's actually working on another leaf here. I hate to disturb it while it's pushing a new leaf, but it's in the tiny pot that it came in, and I just want to get it upsized and potted into my aeroid mix. But I tell you, a freaking silica, man. I've given this plant silica, you know, since I've had it, but I can already tell how much stronger this plant is. I can't like put into words how it's made the plant respond, but I can just tell just in the short amount of time of having this plant, like giving this plant my nutrients and silica, like I can tell this plant is going to just freaking explode, because this leaf already sized up quite a bit. So I have a feeling this guy is going to be growing big in no time. I don't know what this mix is. I think it's just a soil mix, but I'm just going to put it in. I was trying to decide what size to do. I think I'm just going to go ahead and stick it in a 4-inch. It's quite a bit of a jump. I probably would rather do a 3-inch, but I'm just going to watch my watering, and my aeroid mix is pretty aerated, so I'm not really worried about it staying too moist. I have to make a huge batch of aeroid mix, pon, prop mix. I'm waiting on my tree fern to get here. It's taking a little bit because it was out of stock, and then I ordered it from another place, and it's just taking a lot longer to get here. So yeah, I made a small batch of what I had left. All right, so we're gonna get started here. Maybe if I back away a little bit, I'll have to work on the end. Okay, I moved you down slightly. All right, first question: has running a plant business changed your love of plants in any way? It hasn't changed my love for plants because I just look at it a little bit differently now, like as far as purchasing plants. I feel like I'm someone who loves propagating and growing plants from just a small little thing. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start a plant shop, because I love propagating and growing plants so much. From like growing a plant from a wet stick or a corm, like an alocasia, is one of my favorite things to do. And I enjoy getting like this, a baby plant, and growing it from small to maturity. That's where I get the biggest satisfaction in growing house plants. And like if I were to go out and get a big plant and buy it, and all I'm doing is just watering it, I just don't, although I love my big plants and I love looking at them and enjoying them, I feel like it's more special to me when I've gotten it in my collection as a small plant and grown it to be that size that it is, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to disturb this little root ball. The root system seems pretty fine on it, so I'm just going to plop and fill. I will say the plant business though has made me want to shorten my plant care routine, and in a sense the plant business, I've had to get more plants because I want more variety to have to like grow out for the shop and stuff. And with more plants comes more plant care, right? More responsibility and stuff. So it is stressful in that sense to me, just because it can get overwhelming some weeks, because I'm trying to not only run everything and do everything by myself, trying to keep up with social media, and then trying to continuously grow plants and propagate and water everyone. It's just, I feel like I've kind of neglected some of my own plants in my collection. And so it's really made me consider like letting some plants go that I just no longer care about. And I've already started doing that. Plants that no longer bring me joy, I'm like, do I really want to grow this plant out? Do I really want to keep this plant? Do I want to prop it in the future to sell? And if the answer is no, then I'm like, why am I even keeping this plant, you know? So I would say, to answer the question, it hasn't changed my love for plants. It's only, I feel like it's only made me love plants even more, because I'm excited to get new plants and grow new plants. So yeah, I just feel like it's a lot for one person to maintain everything, but I'm excited to have all these plants in my collection, to grow all these plants. And it depends on the week, because some weeks I'm more stressed than others. And like I said, if I feel overwhelmed, I just have to I just need to stop and think, okay, what's overwhelming me? What are the tasks I need to get finished? What can I do to feel less stressed or whatever? And like moss poles, I already mentioned in my last moss pole care video that I feel so overwhelmed with all the moss poles, all the maintenance and watering and everything. And so I started taking some plants off so I don't have so many to water all the time, to chop and extend all the time. So I feel like, and then pond too, kind of off topic, has definitely made my plant care easier. So I feel like I just want to have a more manageable collection of my own while also growing a ton of other plants, if that makes sense. I still want to enjoy the hobby. I still want to have that love of plants that I always, you know, had when I first got into plants, and the excitement, everything. I still feel that. I still really love plants. I just don't want to burn myself out to where I feel like this is just work now. And it's trying to find that balance of, I do really enjoy this, but I want to have a collection that I really love and enjoy, and not just, you know, keep plants around that I got in my early days of collecting plants just because I have them and I've cared for them for this long. If I fall out of love with certain plants, like, that's totally okay. And it's okay to let them go and move on, and only keep a collection that I'm happy about and that I want to enjoy taking care of the plants that I have. Ooh, she cute. Look at her. See, like, this is a plant I'm super excited about. I've always wanted a philodendron caramel marble, and I had gotten the Ring of Fire before, and I was like, do I really need a caramel marble? But yes, I really do, because they are completely different. The variegation is more pronounced on this plant, and this is a plant that when it grows big in my collection, I'm just going to adore it and love it every day, and I'm excited about this one. So yes, I'm reflecting a lot. She is cute. I need to water her. Although the base on this one I actually just watered, so I won't water this one yet, because that little root ball chunk was pretty moist. And I don't really have any pots for these, so I'm gonna have to find saucer trays and put them. This one was in my Redsta, so I'll put this one back in my Redsta. I know there was like more questions about the plant shop that I'll get to, so sorry, this Q&A is gonna be all over the place. Hi, Melissa from Tanya. Have you ever thought about having a small greenhouse built in your backyard? I have considered it, and my only frightening thing that I worry about with that is, one, we live in a literal swamp. It's a swamp out there. There's like lagoon areas in this neighborhood. There's huge alligators that can come into the water that's in this area, and we have poisonous snakes. We had a snake in our house while we were out of town last month, which was kind of scary. We have southern black widows here. We have a lot of poisonous things that could easily get into a greenhouse, and I am already getting goosebumps. I am deathly afraid of spiders, We have tons of cockroaches here. People call them palmetto bugs here, but I call them cockroaches. They get into our house here all the time and I can't stand them. I have to have my husband like get them out of the house. I seriously, I can't even talk. I'm getting goosebumps. I can't even talk about it. Like, I hate bugs. And that's my only issue, is if there was something that were to get in a greenhouse out there, I could not handle it. I couldn't. Those plants would immediately suffer because I could not go in there. And my husband doesn't like snakes either. And so that's not good if there was like a snake in there and none of us could get it out. I just feel like I couldn't manage the plants in there knowing something got in there. And there was an alligator on our neighbor's front porch just a couple months ago. So it is a high possibility that something like that could get in the greenhouse. So I don't think I would ever have an outdoor greenhouse because of that, at least here in this location, because even walking around in our yard, sometimes I get very anxious. I'm always having to do like peripheral, I'm always looking. It would be nice. I would love to have one, but I just don't think it's ideal for me in this spot. I would much rather grow plants inside, because another thing is I kind of neglect plants outside. That's why I don't put a lot out like on my front porch or the back patio, because I tend to neglect them. I don't water them as much and they're exposed to the outside elements, pests and all kinds of stuff. I would just rather care for plants in my indoor setting. So I feel like eventually that room that my nursery is in has a bed in there. Eventually I want to turn that into just like a nursery area. So get the bed out of there and do like 5 more shelves down the road. I know this is like a pretty decent sized house. I mean, we have 4 bedrooms, but we don't have an upstairs. It's just 1 layer. And this floor plan had an option to get an upstairs, but we chose not to, just because it was like 50 grand more onto the cost of the house. So we decided at that time that, yeah, we didn't want it, but now we really do want it. So maybe in our future, we would get that upstairs as like an addition built on that's like way down the road. And then we would have like a guest bedroom area, and then I could take over that other bedroom. But yeah, I don't think I could ever have a greenhouse out there now. I'm just too worried about creatures. So this next one is a Hoya multiflora. I got this one recently, but it's the variegated one. It's put out 2 new leaves in my care and they are beautiful. Look at that variegation. I always wanted a Hoya multiflora. And so it has a peduncle right there too. And I didn't even realize it. So this is the original mix it came in. This is from Lex, and it seems like it's mostly cocoa core or cocoa husk, but I think I just want to switch it to my aroid mix, because I find cocoa husk, depending on the brand of cocoa husk, I've had issues with chlorosis, and I would rather not have it be mostly cocoa husk, if that makes sense. I would rather it be in my aroid mix. So I'm just going to switch it out. It's got, ooh, a nice little root system. Okay, next question. How lucrative, okay, this is another question about the plant shop. Don't have to give exact amounts. Have you found your plant selling business? Do you think it's been worth it so far? I am addicted to propagating, so I was pondering this recently. I don't know if I feel comfortable sharing numbers. One, I feel like I'm still new to all this, because I think I opened in April, so it hasn't even been open that long, and I'm still trying to figure out how much I'm actually spending on cost of materials. I just started selling pod not too long ago, so I have to figure out, is that going to be worth it long term to keep selling it? So I have a lot to figure out as far as that goes. And then I've spent a lot on buying new plants, having the shop in mind, because I wanted like variety to sell down the road. It does cost money up front to, I don't know like where you want to sell at, if you want to do your own website, if you want to sell on sites like Etsy. Like for me, my website, it did cost money up front to get my LLC, to buy my domain and stuff like that. And all your supplies adds up, the cost of materials, my shipping, printer, you know, all the packing supplies, labels, tape. I go through tape like nobody's business, polyfill. I try to reuse what I can. Like if I get plant mail that has like paper in it, I'll fold it and reuse it. The polyfill, I'll reuse. I don't reuse as much cardboard because I prefer to just have my own box with my sticker on it. I don't really want to reuse a ton of boxes in that sense, but I do recycle all the cardboard that I don't use. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles up front, right? You don't have to have everything that you need. You can get stuff each month as you get sales. You can kind of be like, okay, well, I want maybe my own logo and labels or like a little sticker to put in the box. Like you can get stuff like that down the road as you sell more. And you kind of figure out like what you want, like what your goal is. And even just selling on the side just to get extra income. I know people sell on like Facebook Marketplace. I mean, you can make money selling plants. It just depends on what you're looking for it to be, right? I love growing healthy plants for people, and I enjoy like the whole packing process. I enjoy taking photos each week, and I just enjoy the entire process. Yeah, it can be stressful because it is a lot of work. I would say the plant shop takes up like 4 days out of my week on a week that I'm having a restock. So it's a lot to manage on its own, but then for me, adding in social media and everything else, it's a lot. And so that's why some weeks I take a break from selling, just because I need that break of like catching up, making new props, filming a couple videos, editing, caring for my own plants, tasks that have gotten like way put off. When I feel stressed, I'm like, okay, well, I need to not do a restock this week and focus on my plants. And that's what I did like this past week. I made a ton of props. I got some stuff done. But if you're in it for the right reasons, like obviously selling plants, your goal is to make money and to be able to either have this as like a side income or a full-time job. I would say for me, I'm doing it because I really enjoy it, and it's extra income for me because this social media is my full-time job and I don't do brand sponsors. It's just something I choose not to do. And so that's extra income I'm missing out on. And it was really hard to do this on YouTube income alone. So now that I have this shop, it has tremendously helped not to feel so stressed each month, because again, like YouTube income is so hit or miss. Like each month it's not always the same, and it depends. And some months are more than others. And I always felt pressured, like I couldn't do less videos than what I was doing because I wasn't making enough money. So whatever your reasons are for selling plants, I will say just make sure that it's something you enjoy, because it is a lot of work and there's a lot that goes into it. And make sure customer service is like one thing too. And you want to build, you want people to come back and shop from you, right? You want people to have a good experience when they buy from you. And yeah, you can't make everyone happy, but you just want to provide people with a good experience. At least that's how I look at it, because I truly am grateful to be able to do this. And I'm thankful to all of you guys who have purchased from me and who continue to repurchase from me. Honestly, it makes my day. I see so many of you have like bought so many times from me. Each week that I do a restock, I see so many names that are the same, and it just makes me feel so grateful that you guys are willing to come back and repurchase. And I try not to get teary-eyed, but I am so grateful, and I feel like I'm in this for the right reason, and it's something that I want to hopefully continue to do for the foreseeable future, because I really love having this shop, and I love doing social media and these videos. It's just, some weeks it can be a lot, but I put that pressure on myself, and I just need to learn to actually, it's okay to cut back in some places, in some areas, I guess, because I don't want to burn myself out or stress myself out that I feel like I'm constantly working and I don't have time to do other things, because that's how it's been. I feel like I'm always working and I don't have time. It's not that I don't have time, it's just I'm not making time for other things to kind of de-stress, if that makes sense. And I need to make that a priority as well. So whether that be not being on social media as much, like this week, it's Wednesday and I haven't been on my Instagram now in 3 days, and I'm someone who's always on my Instagram stories, and I feel like I'm always showing up. I'm someone who posted like twice a week or twice a day for years on my Instagram, and I loved it at one point, but trying to do that and everything else, it just became too much. So Instagram has definitely fallen on the back burner. And then when you're just starting out, like, you need a good social media presence, right? In order to get your clientele or to get your shop out there, you need to promote your shop. And so it can be a lot. But definitely if you love propagating and you feel like you want to sell healthy plants to people, definitely, you know, go ahead and get started. And like I said, you don't have to have anything crazy up front. I would say for me, with what I'm selling, it's worth it as far as the income that I'm getting. Now, it depends on what you're selling too, because if you're selling, say, a pothos, it's obviously not going to be as much. And then you have to factor in the cost of shipping, the cost of materials. You're really not profiting off of, say, a pothos that's like $15 to $20, you're not making that much of a profit. Whereas if you're selling more of a rare plant, for example, I have this Raphidophora tetrasperma variegated where it's more expensive, like over $100. You're obviously like profiting more from that sale. So it can cost money to get more rare plants to sell because you're really making more from the rare plants, if that makes sense, because that's where most of the money's coming from. So make sure you have, like, I would say whatever you're propagating, make sure it's a good variety, because to make it worth it, you need to be selling, I feel like, more rare, and you can throw in some common plants in there too. Okay, I messed with the root system a little bit, so hopefully this one doesn't get angry at me. Ooh, that was a lot. I feel like I've already been talking my head off, and that was only the third question. But yes, 100% Krista has been worth it for sure. It's a lot of work, and you have to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be happy. So that is that one. I'll probably water these at the end because I don't have anything to water over. Oh, I can't wait to see that bloom. Hopefully I didn't stress this one out where the bloom will blast and not grow, but I'm excited for this one. I've always wanted multi-flora blooms. I've always wanted this Hoya. So this is a tiny philodendron Gabby. I've always wanted a philodendron Gabby, and it's in this like moss perlite mixture. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this potted up into my aroid mix. It's put out, I think, this leaf since I've got it, this one here, and then it's working on another one. But it's acclimated to my space, so I'm gonna go ahead and get it out of this little pot. The issue with these little pots is they just dry out really quickly in my space, so I can underwater them very easily if I don't pay attention. Ashley asked, what are some of your other hobbies besides plants? And I would say right now I don't have any other hobbies, just because I feel like plants consume so much of my time. But I love walking, so I got a walking pad recently. It's right there. I love walking outside too, and just being outside like in nature. I enjoy that. And I do eventually want to get back into art. My husband actually asked me that the other day. He's like, do you ever think you'll draw again? And I'm like, I want to one day. I actually, I don't know if I could draw or design some kind of like print maybe I could do on a t-shirt. But again, I feel like it's one of those things where I don't really have the time because the plant shop keeps me so busy. But I do eventually. I feel like the further along I go with the plant shop, I don't know eventually how it's going to be, like even months from now. I can't really say, but I do want to make time to actually do some stuff other than plant stuff all the time, because I feel like doing plants all the time can definitely burn you out, because it gets to be a lot, and you do need to take time for other stuff that you enjoy. This stem here is a little rotted. I'm going to cut this off. But yeah, maybe I'll acquire a new hobby down the road. I've actually been interested in maybe trying just something new to focus on besides like getting back into drawing. Maybe creating like creating pottery or something like that would be kind of cool and fun, because it's a form of art, and I feel like I would enjoy something like that. So maybe we'll see down the road what all I decide to do. That's the root system on that one. I'm not going to try and get off every single piece of moss, but okay. I'm going to do this one in a 3-inch because he's tiny. Christopher asked, what would you consider your most high maintenance and low maintenance plant? I would say maybe not a specific plant, but I would say just one, moss poles, because they require a lot of maintenance as far as watering. And the bigger they get, like for example, my Monstera adansonii is freaking huge. It's literally a tree and it requires so much water. It just, you can't underwater it or it's going to yellow and get angry, and it just needs a lot of nutrients to be able to maintain the leaves. And moss poles in general are very high maintenance. And then I would say my bigger plants in pond, like my Alocasia michelitziana, is very thirsty. So if I underwater my pond, it's definitely going to droop and lose leaves. I've acquired a lot of new plants recently, so I'm not sure 2 out of the new ones which one seems to be higher maintenance, I guess, out of those. I got a begonia recently, the Jenny Galaxy. That one actually was rotting, so I had to propagate it. I did that, was it yesterday or the day before? It just was looking sad ever since I bought it, so I don't know if it just, the root system wasn't good or it just shocked. Hopefully that one does okay and bounces back, because I only have a top cut that I was able to save. And I know like caletheas and stuff can be a little dramatic, which I'm considering putting more of them into pond because all my marantas in pond seem really happy, and I just love pond now. I am gonna repot a ton of my Marantha caletheas soon. I think I'm gonna sit down and do a Marantha caletheia repot day, because all the ones in my bathroom need to be repotted, and I'm sure there's some in pond that probably need an upsize now, but I have a ton that need to be taken care of. And I would like to at least, I know I won't get through all of them, but I would like to at least get through maybe half of them for the time being. And then low maintenance, I always say pothos are extremely low maintenance. All my pothos plants are just so easygoing. They, like Marble Queen, even some of my trailing phylos, like Philodendron Brazil, Heartleaf, like Philodendron micans on a pole, like they're all generally like easygoing for me. Alocasia has been a lot easier to care for now that they're in pond. What are some future goals you have for you? Wait. What's some future goals you have for your business or yourself? I think future goals for the business, I think I don't know where this is going to go, but I feel like if I do try to branch out any further, I'm definitely going to need help, because I just can't do it with one person. I don't think my husband's interested at all, because he's just not into plants, and I can't like make him do stuff if he's not interested in it. Like, he's more of like, it's football season now, that's all he's into, football. Whereas I'm not interested in sports. Like, we're completely opposite like that. And so I just feel like he works 2 different jobs, and in his free time, he's not going to want to help with any plant stuff. He's going to want to focus on like his football. So I feel like I would have to get outside help, which to me, that sounds extremely stressful, trying to find help, but I don't think I'm there yet. Like, I have stuff that I want to pay off and everything before I think about trying to hire outside help. Anything that I've made from the shop, I've either put back into the shop as far as like getting plants to sell, and I'm working on paying off some debt that I have. Maybe eventually I will get help and maybe expand, but I'm not even there yet. I feel like I want to see how this winter season goes and how it goes for me kind of into next year. And then I'll have more of an idea of what the hell was that? And then I'll have more of an idea of what the shop can be like in the future, I guess. I would love to expand though. I feel like it would be fun, but then I worry if I do expand that I'm not going to have as much time for like YouTube per se and everything else, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, shit. Oh no, I dropped some stuff. It's so tiny, but it's so cute. It's gonna look so pretty once it grows. I always wanted a gappy. Water that in last. Future goals for myself. I feel like I'm always thinking about the future, and like years from now, am I going to be continuing to do the same thing? And I always worry about the houseplant hobby in general, because I worry people aren't going to be into plants as much, which I kind of feel like I don't know. I feel like a lot of people that got into plants during the pandemic probably aren't into plants like they once were. You know, life gets in the way. People have other responsibilities, families, jobs, and then like growing plants, one is an expensive hobby, but it's a lot to maintain. And if you don't have time to care for a bunch of plants, then you're not going to be wanting to buy a ton of plants if you just don't have the time to dedicate to that. So I feel like I worry, like, are people still going to be into watching these kinds of videos in like a couple years from now even? I worry, are people going to be buying as many plants? Am I going to be able to continue to do this? So it's a lot. It's a lot to think about, and it's kind of scary not knowing the unknown, I guess, but I can't worry about that. I also just want to live like in the present and enjoy the present and not worry or stress about stuff that I can't control. I'm someone who like can tend to think of negative a lot and let that worry me, but I'm trying to think more positive in a sense. So I don't want to think about bad things happening. I just want to continue to do this because I enjoy it, and I want people to hopefully still be into plants like years from now and want to purchase. I don't know, I'm trying to think positive about that, but I do stress sometimes about the future. Which plant will you never repurchase? So, funny thing you asked. Let's move on to the next plant. So this is the Hoya that was gifted by Nicole. I forgot her name for a minute. And so this is Hoya Caricia Silver. It wasn't even a Hoya on my radar at all. She gifted me this as a cutting. That's the leaf that she sent me. And it's already rooted so much in here that it dries out constantly. But look at this new set of leaves. This is such a stunning Hoya. It's made me like want to grow this one for my personal collection. Like I don't even want to chop this at all because it's so pretty. I was just noticing it has some edema on the leaves. I had just watered it, but I overdid it, so that's probably why. But I'm gonna get this one potted into my aeroid mix. Again, this is quite a big jump, but I feel like it'll be able to stay in here for quite some time. I need a little bowl for my stratum though. So a plant that I will never repurchase, I have officially decided to part ways with Philodendron Melanochrysum. I just can't do it. I just can't grow it. In order to grow that plant, I would have to buy one that's more mature and growing because I just can't grow it. I have struggled with that plant from day one. I bought a Melanochrysum cutting during the height of the pandemic, like 2020, and I didn't have the original one anymore because it died, but the one that I was trying to import that I got, you know, as a rehab, I had it growing in pond on a pole, and then I underwatered it, and it got all wonky on top. I propped it back. It started growing again, and then it got powdery mildew. I don't know what was on that plant. And so now it was getting that powdery mildew stuff again in my cabinet. I had the top cutting, and I decided to chuck it. It is gone. I'm not going to repurchase it. I know there's the pretty variegated ones now too, but if I can't grow a regular Melanochrysum, I'm not going to grow a variegated. I feel like here, even though it's like, it can be very humid here, like outside. Inside here though, all summer, humidity is like 45, 49, low 50. And I feel like that plant just doesn't like my environment. I feel like it needs greenhouse conditions. And it was growing so well in my Ikea cabinet. It really was. And then it wasn't until I moved it out that it started going downhill and getting crispy and wonky leaves, and I was underwatering it. I just don't have an ideal spot for it, location. that can get pretty high humidity unless I blast it 24/7 with the humidifier, but it's just not worth it to me. That plant was too stressful. I have so many velvety phyllos that I don't need Melanochrysum. Like, I don't need that plant. It has by far been the hardest plant that I have ever tried to grow. So I am moving on from it. I do not need that one in my collection anymore. I'm gonna rinse the stratum roots under my sink real quick. Isn't that cool? And that's the root system. One of the questions is, how long do you leave alocasias in stratum before you move them to pond? And I have a couple alocasias here that I'm going to move to pond that are in stratum, and it really just depends on when I can actually move them. Minimum, I would say two to 3 weeks in stratum so they can grow in some new water roots, and then I move them to pond. But I've left plants in stratum for a really long time because I'm busy and sometimes I don't always have time to get a plant out of stratum and move it into the ideal like substrate I want it in until I can actually sit down and do it. So a lot of the times for me, plants are in stratum way longer than they need to be. I would say 2-3 weeks, and then you can definitely transfer it. But obviously the longer you leave them in stratum, the more like water roots and stuff that they'll grow in, and they'll shed some of their old soil roots. So it can lessen the shock the longer that they are in stratum, but I wouldn't leave them in stratum to where they're so rooted and overgrown, then you have a hard time like getting them out of the stratum, and then you stress them by trying to get all the roots untangled and everything. So ideally a couple weeks. I'm gonna pop this one up and answer a question and then let my camera cool down and take a little break, and then I'll be back for round 2. Okay, Dora asked, what plant or plants will you always have in your collection? What is your favorite Hoya and why? What is your favorite plant to propagate? Oh, there's a lot of good questions here. Which plant or plants will you always have in your collection? I feel like my favorites are, obviously I love so many different plants. It's really hard to say. I have fallen in love, like I love variegated plants. I would rather have the variegated version of, say, one that's a regular version. But it depends on the plant, because I still have regular versions that I really love and enjoy. There's just something about variegated plants that I really love. I love the uniqueness of each leaf that comes out because it's different than the last one. And I love chunky like sectoral variegation. I have a plant here that I'm going to pot up, but look at that. I love this variegation pattern. And I just love variegated plants. So obviously, like, I've fallen in love with variegated alocasia. I love a lot of mine that I've gotten. I love my classics, you know, Marble Queen on a pole. A lot of those, like Monstera Adansonia in a pole, Monstera Alvo, Monstera Aria, just like my favorites and ones that I've had with me for a really long time. I don't think I'd ever, unless something were to happen to them, I'm always going to have them in my collection. And I don't know, I've gotten a lot of new ones recently that I'm always going to have. I feel like favorite Hoyas, I love the Linearis, I love the Polynura, I'm always going to have those. And I've gotten some new ones recently, like this one I'm falling super in love with because I love the leaves and I love the silver. It's a plant that I don't think I would have purchased this one. And sometimes I don't like a plant, or not that I don't like a plant, but I fall more in love with it the more it grows for me. Or I fall in love with it more once it actually starts growing better. So we'll see. And the pink black velvet alocasia, oh, I love it. And I love my Tanderosa. There's just so many plants. Favorite Hoya and why? So Linearis. I just love the look of the Linearis. I'm still waiting on the Linearis to bloom for me. I love all the Polynuras. I love the look of the Polynura. The fishtail Hoya, I love the variegated ones. I have 5 different varieties of the Polynura now. I actually got the Discipulae from Nicole as well, and it's another one that is really growing on me. But I love the silvery leaves are like one of my favorites. And I have a feeling like once this one grows, this Coracia silver, it's going to be a favorite. And I'm trying to think another Hoya. I love Hoya Mathilde. splash. Yeah, I would say those are probably my top ones. My favorite plant to propagate. So I think my favorite propagation is alocasia corms. I love growing the corms out. It's probably my favorite out of everything to prop, just because it's fun to see the new leaves come in, especially the variegated ones, because you don't know what they're gonna grow into and be like until they actually start growing. So I definitely love alocasia corms. And I've propped pretty much everything. Philo, Anthurium, Hoya. They're all relatively the same, I feel like, for me, as far as like how I prop them. Sometimes I prop them straight into my prop mix. Sometimes I grow them. I love growing wet sticks out too, like chunks. You know, they don't have a leaf, there's just a node. And I love growing those out too, because it's satisfying seeing that little growth point come out. And I love propping Monstera albo. I forgot about that. I love Monstera albo propagation. I love seeing what the new leaf is gonna do. So yeah, besides alocasia, maybe Monstera. I had this one in that little acrobar, but I'm gonna have to move this one out because it is definitely too big for that now. Oh, it's so pretty. They look so good potted up. I have 2 more soil plants to do. I'm propping one of them, and then I have 2 alocasia and pon. I'll probably save the pon ones for last. But yeah, I'll be back. It'll be just a second for you guys, but I'm gonna take a little break, let my camera cool down, and I'll be back. All right. Time to get started again. I'm gonna pop this one up, you guys. I am so freaking excited about this plant. So this is the variegated chia pence that I bought, and this is the top cutting that I took, and that's the new leaf here in the middle. And so I have a mid cutting that I'm rooting, and I have the bottom section. The bottom section is actually sprouted, and the new leaf hasn't unfurled yet, but this is gonna be my plant that I'm gonna keep for me. And the bottom section I'm gonna grow out to prop that one back for the shop. You know, I'll use that to keep propagating. Once it grows, I'll cut it back. But I just wanted one for me that I'm not cutting back because I love this plant so much. And so this is the top cutting, and this variegation is just, there's just something about the sectoral sections. It's like the chunk of variegation. It's not splashy. And that new leaf is to die for. I love this plant so much. So I am so excited to get this potted up. I'm gonna pop this into my air wide mix. All right, next question. How do you stay motivated to keep plants when dealing with pests? I love my plants and put so much work into them, but seeing pests come back is so deflating. Love your videos. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's very deflating. I totally understand how you feel and how that feels. Like for me lately, it's been mealybugs. I found them on a different plant in my plant room, and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I had to like spray it down, and there must be like random mealy still in there that have just, I don't know, they're attacking certain plants, and I don't find out until I'm in there watering and they've kind of, I don't know, grown, spread around, and I don't notice them until I see like more of them on the plant. I have to keep telling myself that it's normal to get pest. It sucks. I wish plant pests didn't exist. I wish we didn't have to get them at all. And I remember back when I had more pests, and I just would get so upset. Like that time I had thrips, I was just, I don't know, so overwhelmed. And I just felt, I don't know, it just was so upsetting. And I think the biggest thing for me is not delaying treatment. I know it sucks like finding pests, because then you feel like it just creates so much extra work, right? You have to not only check your plants, treat them, retreat them, make sure the pests are gone. It's just a cycle, and it can be really overwhelming when you have pests, because at least for me, there's a million other things that I need to be doing, and treating for pests is not really one of those that I had planned on doing. So you can really get down, and I've gotten down plenty of times about pests in my collection because it's frustrating. Look at the root system there. So the biggest thing that's helped me is just knowing which pests like certain plants and checking those more often. The more you check certain plants, the more you can stay on top of an infestation. Back when I had spider mites, every few months I would, order the predatory mites and let those run all over my plants, and I would check certain plants more often just because I know they were target pest for them. But honestly, silica, I'm gonna make a video. I feel like I need to make a separate video on silica. Ever since my plants have been getting silica, it hasn't quite been a year almost. The only pest I get now, knock on wood, that I've noticed is mealybugs. I think the mealybug outbreak started when I had them last summer on my east window, and they just kind of spread from there. I think they came in through the window in my plant room as well, and they spread from there. So knowing that, I can be more aware of plants that are in the window to check them and make sure that like an infection isn't spreading, because mealies can just be so annoying to treat because they take forever. I feel like you'll treat a plant and then it's like there they are again. It's like they multiplied and grown, and it's like you treated them, but they're back. It's just, I feel like they keep popping back up, which is the annoying thing. And honestly, mealies have now become like my worst pest because I hate them so much. But yeah, just know that it's normal to have pests, and it is frustrating, but I would just say to stay on top of your treatments. Try not to slack if you can help it on that, just because if you catch an outbreak early, the better chance you have at getting rid of them quicker. And if there's a certain plant that you don't care about anymore and it's badly infested, and it's okay to get rid of plants that no longer bring you joy, that seem to always get pests, that you just no longer enjoy caring for because of that reason, like it's perfectly fine to get rid of plants like that, because your mental health and sanity is important too. I think how I stay motivated is, one, I have the plant shop now, so I feel like I'm always staying on top of treating and checking for pests, even spraying plants down. I actually bought some, it's like a neem oil concentrate. I haven't used neem oil in forever because I was just using Castile soap and water, but I'm going to try this neem oil concentrate and dilute it with water and use that to spray off plants more routinely, because I know neem has like an antifungal property in it too, because I've been getting some powdery mildew on some plants. So I'm gonna try and just be better about spraying my plants. Like even when I'm in there watering, just take like my spray bottle, just spray off a couple plants, and just keep up with trying to keep them more clean, because I feel like that's really gonna keep pests off, is when you are better about that kind of maintenance. Ooh, this is so pretty. I'm just gonna add a stake in here whenever it grows a bit more. Oh, this is gonna be one of my favorite plants, I can already tell. I just love the variegation. There's just something about it. Love her. Ooh, and this next one is the variegated Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. So I would say, I think this leaf is right when I had it, and so all this here is new growth. But I think I'm gonna cut this one back. I'm gonna repot the base. I haven't repotted it yet. And I wanna do the same thing like with the chia pens. I wanna do the top cut for me to grow out, and then I'm gonna cut up all these individual mid cuts and propagate those. And then eventually, like, I'll keep the bottom cut to regrow and cut it back for like the plant shop purposes. But I really want this one in my collection as like a plant for me. And look how pretty that top section is. It's gorgeous. I love the chunks of variegation on this. So I'm gonna cut her back and we'll pot her up too. Allie wrote, do you feel you buy plants now with only being able to sell them in mind, or do you still buy ones you want in your home you like? So yeah, I feel like I kind of touched on that. Like plants that I know I want for me in my collection, like with this one that I just did, I'll just buy one, let it grow a little bit, and then prop it. It's kind of setting it back a little bit, like having to start over, but I would rather start over with a top cutting that I've rooted, that has gotten my nutrients, that has already been like establishing in my care. I'd rather start over with like a piece of it, and then that way whatever's left, I'll just cut back and prop and sell and regrow out in the future. It'll take longer for the original plant to, you know, grow out, but that way I can keep 2 plants, you know, one for me and one for the shop purposes. I can't do that with all of them because that would be like owning 2 plants in my collection. Of a lot of them would be a lot of work to maintain and water and everything, but I still buy plants for me all the time just because I love plants, and sometimes I just want to buy a new plant. But I will say there are plants that I do want to get like just for the shop per se. Like a lot of alocasia I wanted to get to, not only for me to have, but also to get the corm so that I can have different varieties of alocasia to grow out. So I would say it's a little of both. Hi, love your chit chat lengthy videos. Thank you so much. Your videos help me feel more motivated and positive. What camera do you use for your videos? The quality is always on point. Looking forward to more videos. Well, thank you so much. So I use the Sony ZV-1. There is a ZV-10, which is the newer model, but they didn't have it when I bought my camera, so I have the ZV-1. And I shoot in 4K, so the quality is better in 4K. And then I usually film with the aperture at a lower setting. I think mine can go down to a 1.8, which is what mine is currently set on. I usually do auto on the like white balance and stuff because I feel like the light and stuff is always fluctuating. So I don't usually mess with too many settings. I'm not like a camera expert at all. I still get very confused by like shutter speed and all that stuff. I have my camera settings set up to, I guess, I don't know. I watched some videos on different people's camera settings, like those people who are expert at cameras, and I kind of mimicked some of their settings to shoot in, but for the most part, I try to keep the aperture low so that I'm mostly in focus and the background is blurred. And then I have a hard time sometimes with the lighting because it depends on how much light is coming in, and sometimes I have to adjust that depending on like the time of the day. If it's a really sunny day, I have to make sure to keep that in mind. Like if I'm filming more at night, I have to make sure that I think the shutter speed can, I don't know, keep up with that. I don't know all the terminology, but it's the Sony ZV-1 and I've had it now. I bought this camera in 2022 before we moved, and then I started using it for the first time on my channel like that summer of 2022. Because before that I was filming with just my iPhone, and even though the iPhone was good quality, I didn't have a MacBook or anything. I was using an app on my phone, and then I ran out of storage very quickly, and it was really hard to film on my phone after that. So I really wanted a MacBook to go with the camera for editing purposes, because 6 months of just using my phone and an iPhone app to edit in was enough. Like I wanted something better quality, and I just self-taught everything that I've done, and I only continue to hope to improve, because even the sound setting was a lot for me to try and figure out, and I've adjusted it several times now, and I don't even know if I even like the audio sometimes. I feel like my mic cuts out a lot, and I don't know. But I'm very happy with this camera. I don't plan on getting a new camera. I plan on using this camera until I can't anymore. I feel like 4K is going to be the best quality anyway, so I'm really happy with this camera, and yeah, I'm probably not going to do a different camera or anything anytime soon. I'm going to go ahead and propagate this top section here, right here. So this is going to be mine that I am keeping. Looks like I watered this a little heavily because there's some browning right there, which is a little sad. Yeah, so I'm going to put this into a stratum. Actually, I have the stratum right here. We'll just reuse this, but I'm going to let this dry a little bit and callus. And so I'm going to do I'm gonna do mid cuttings. The stem is pretty thick, but I'll probably do these mid cuttings and stratum as well. Amanda wrote, do you have any tips on getting Hoyas to bloom? And if you are planning videos, shameless plug for a bog update video, I would love an update and more info regarding the care for those little pings. I actually want to redo that bog, I think, because I want to get that jewel orchid out of there. And then one of the Filiformis Drosera, I think, needs to go through a period of dormancy, I was told. So I probably should get that big guy out and maybe just pot it up separately. And I've completely neglected it. I mean, everything's fine in there and it's growing and doing fine. I just feel like I don't have an ideal spot for it in my plant room, and I've let it get so underwatered a lot that it's dried out a few times now. So I just feel like I need to find a new spot for it. That little white dot is the axillary bud there, and that's the root. But in my last plant update was, I think it was in July. I'll link my last plant update because I did show it in that video, and I'm going to be doing another plant update soon for this month in September, and I'll show it again. But I probably should make an updated video on that. And then getting Hoyas to bloom. So tips on getting Hoyas to bloom. I feel like Hoyas bloom in time with maturity, because I feel like I even have had some of my Hoyas in my collection for a really long time and they still haven't bloomed. So I feel like giving them proper light, a lot of Hoyas I feel like love light, and so giving them good care, and then also nutrients. You can try and feed with more, I think it's phosphorus that helps with the blooming. You can try and feed them with maybe a fertilizer specifically for blooms that could potentially help them bloom. Or you could also, like some of my new Hoyas that I've gotten, say like this one here that I just repotted, the variegated multiflora, like it has a peduncle. You could always buy them, buy a cutting that has peduncles, and that way it'll bloom quicker for you in that sense. Because I've sold Hoyas that have a bloom or peduncle, and they'll like start to bloom for you quicker that way. But other than that, I feel like a lot of my blooms just came within time. This is going to be a tight one. Uh-oh. Ooh. Yeah, that one's so tiny, that axillary bud right there. Tiffany asked, before your plant shop, hi Tiffany, how did you justify spending a certain amount of money on a wish list plant? I want so many expensive plants, but I don't want to go broke either. As beautiful as some plants are, sometimes I can't justify spending so much money. Yeah, trust me, I have been there. And I'm still there. I have to try to contain myself because I want to buy all the plants, right? Because I do have this shop now, but I have to understand, like, I can't be spending everything that I make on plants, because yeah, that would just be careless. It's just, I'm trying to budget myself now as to where I can spend like either a certain amount on plants, or I can treat myself maybe a couple times a month to a new plant purchase. Because I feel like depending on where you buy from too, like you have options. You can buy, say there's a wish list plant you want, but it's more expensive. So maybe try and look for a smaller version of it, like maybe just a cutting instead of a full plant. That way you can grow it out to be a bigger plant in time. Or for like alocasia, for example, you can try finding a smaller plug, or even like buying a corm versus buying a more mature plant, because that's obviously going to be more expensive. But there are risks to that too. So sometimes I prefer just buying a plant that has better genetics, or just better, like buying an alocasia, that way you can see the variegation. So yeah, but now I'm like having to restrict myself, because I've spent a lot over the last few months with the shop buying new plants for the shop, and I have to tell myself, like, okay, you can't be spending all your money on plants. So, But I also don't really treat myself to anything else. Like plants are what I spend my money on. I don't spend money on my hair. I don't spend money on like a ton of clothes. I don't buy a lot of stuff for me in that sense because I don't know, I just prefer not to, and I'd rather just buy money on plants. But I would say treat yourself to every once in a while. I know sometimes, like for me, if I'm not feeling the best, or say I'm in like, not really a bad mood, but just like in a sad mood, sometimes buying plants makes me feel better. And so I've gotten out of hand doing that before. Like I'd buy plants just for the sake of buying them to make me feel better, and not necessarily being smart about it and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have bought this one so soon. Because plant prices too will come down like on certain plants. Like if you know there's one that you're wanting, maybe try and hold off until the price comes down a little bit. And like I said, shop around. You may be able to find like a better deal somewhere else. Oh. Sometimes I do that too. I'll browse for a plant for a while and just see what's out there. Like if I can't find one that I want or one that doesn't speak to me, then I won't buy it. And I'll just wait until I come across the right one. And sometimes I'll just buy it because I want it that bad. But I definitely have to learn to budget myself. So I would say treat yourself on occasion, but don't overdo it, because yeah, you're going to be spending a lot of money on just the maintenance itself for the plant, all the plants that you have, and you know, buying new pots and amendments and soil and pond, all that stuff adds up too. I was trying to see the stem here. I was probably going to cut it a little bit more. I might cut it one more. Yes, I'm going to cut it one more, I think. No, I think I'm going to leave the base like that, because you can see there's the auxiliary bud right there. I think I'm just going to pop this up and let this regrow. I have 4 mid cuts that I took in the top cut. And then once this regrows, we will chop it back again. Do you ever just want to get rid of them all? Just keep the ones that are easy for you. Throw them away, give, sell, just fed up with the effort and time? Question mark. I've been feeling some kind of way lately. LOL. I would say there has been times where I thought about like, what would be my life right now if I didn't have all these plants? Like thinking back to when I was just working at the hospital and I didn't have plants yet. I didn't even know like houseplants was a thing, or even like all these plants existed. It's like, what did I do with my time? I definitely had free time, but like, I don't even remember what all that I did. And it's crazy thinking back. I would never just like get rid of them all. I'll definitely always have plants, but maybe like in my future, maybe I just want to downsize and get rid of plants, yeah, like that no longer bring me joy, that are too high maintenance. Maybe my collection will look a lot different, you know, years down the road. Who's to really say? But the times that I feel like that is more or less when I have like pest outbreak, because that's when I get more stressed and I feel like it's so much work and maintenance to keep up with. But yeah, it can be a lot of work to maintain a large collection, and that's why too, having a collection that's easier care. So like for me, downsizing the amount of moss poles that I have and switching substrates to a lot of them growing in pond has helped me tremendously with caring for my collection, and you know, hundreds of other little plants that I'm trying to sell. I guess there's things that you can do to help manage a large collection, but yeah, I would never just like not have any plants or get rid of them all. Katie wrote, "Hey, I love your videos. Thank you so much. Can you explain in more detail how you use stratum for propagation? I tried it with several different cuttings and have lost nearly all of them to rot. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong." I think I will make a separate video on stratum, but for example, like these that I cut just now, the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, you see how thick that vine is? Like it's a pretty juicy vine, right? And so that in there, I want to give it time to callus over so that it dries a bit, so that that isn't staying wet going into something wet, because that could potentially rot, because when you're cutting into leaf tissue, you're creating a wound basically. And so that wound can you know, end up rotting if bacteria or whatever, you know, gets in there while it's wet. So when it calluses over, it's less prone to rot. It still can happen, but it depends on the cutting that I'm putting into it. Mostly thicker vines, I tend to let them callus for a bit, like Monstera albo, for example. Some things like Hoya, I just stick in there right away, and the vine is so, I'll let it dry a little bit, you know, because when you cut into a Hoya, it's very sappy. And then I will, you know, stick it in the stratum. So I would let it dry a little bit before you stick it in there. And then, yeah, usually when I'm watering in stratum, I mean, this is still moist, but it's not like 100% moist. But I usually just kind of fill it back up to the top just because it tends to dry a lot for me. It dries quickly for me. But I would say the biggest thing with propagating, if you are having a lot of rot, is just letting the ends callus first. Do you think you will ever go back into nursing? I start nursing school in September and I'm super nervous. Thank you for all you do keeping us entertained and relaxed. Give Chai a pet for me. Aw, I think Chai is outside. He's sleeping. He's being so cute. I will not go back into nursing. Nursing, it's crazy because I was thinking about this the other day. I'm gonna get dirt on my face. I was thinking about this the other day that it's crazy how much nursing and being a nurse, I just feel like that was a whole different time in my life. And part of me, I mean, I don't want to say I regret it, but it's crazy to think how my life has turned, I guess, in a different direction. Because nursing school took 4 years, right? And then, so the 4 years of nursing school, and I worked as a nurse, like a bedside nurse, for 10 years, which is so crazy to think about. So that's like, you might as well say that's like 15 years of my life, and I'm 38, so it's a huge chunk of my life dedicated to nursing. But honestly, I loved being a nurse and I loved the job, but it just over time, I don't know, and I think part of it was the pandemic. It really changed things for me, but I don't know, I just kind of it just wasn't me anymore. Like, I was so burnt out, and I didn't like showing up to work every day, just not knowing what was going to happen. I was super stressed all the time. Nursing's hard. It's challenging. Healthcare is challenging, and I feel like if you're not in that field, you don't really know everything that a healthcare worker has to endure during an entire shift. Like, it's not only physically demanding, but it's just emotionally and mentally taxing. And I feel like because of nursing, I have a different outlook on life than what I did before nursing. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it made me see things differently, I guess. And it's just not for me. It's not the kind of job work that I want to do anymore. And although I loved helping people and taking care of people, I just felt too overwhelmed and too stressed every day going into work. And I worked night shift, 3 weeks of night shift every month, and it's just taxing on your body, and sleep schedule was all over the place. I was tired all the time. I felt like all I wanted to do on my days off was sleep, and it's like before you know it, it was like back on the work schedule again. And I don't know, I just got burnt out. I just got super tired. Honestly, like, I don't regret it because I got into houseplants and everything at that time, but I was ready for something else. I was ready for a change. I really fell in love with plants, and I wanted to work with plants and do something with plants because I love them. So I am grateful that I did find plants, but yeah, I don't miss nursing anymore. I don't ever see myself going back into the nursing field, and I feel like if houseplants wasn't a thing, I would find something else to do other than being a nurse, because yeah, I just don't want to go back to feeling that way that I was feeling anymore. So that is the bottom section here. I still have to water all these. And then I'm actually gonna let these callus while we do our, I think, allocation and pon. So I'll set these aside and we'll put these in stratum last. So I'm gonna pause for a minute, clean up the soil mess, and then we'll do these allocation and pon real quick and then come back to these, and then we'll kind of finish up here. I think there's still quite a few questions, so I'm probably not gonna get to everyone, but we'll kind of see how many more I can get through here with this last little bit. All right, moving on to the 2 alocasia we are going to do in pon. I have this variegated pink bambino, and then I also have this Yucatan princess. So I have the one that's more variegated, and this one, it looks like it reverted on me. I had one leaf that was variegated, and although I like the pretty green color, I don't really want to keep this since it's not variegated. This leaf kind of came out all jumbled because I put it into stratum as it was unfurling, and then I have a leaf unfurling, so I shouldn't be putting this into pon yet. But the corms could still grow variegated that this plant produces, so I think I'll hold on to it for a little bit and get some corms and see what they do. But since I have one that's like really variegated, I'd rather just keep that one and not this one. So I haven't decided for sure if I want to keep this one, but I do want to get these out of stratum and moved over to pon. I'm out of small pon containers. That I have like the square ones, but I'm kind of moving away from those because I prefer to use the clear ones now. Even though they have a wick, I kind of like planting into a clear container. So I just don't have any of the smaller ones. I ordered more on Amazon, they're just not here yet. And I have this one, which is okay. I don't even remember where I got this one. But I'm gonna plant this one into here, this bambino, since I have it. And then the other one I might just plant into, oh, this is gonna be too big. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But we'll go ahead and plant this one into here. Not sure if this was asked already, but would love your honest thoughts on the future of the houseplant movement, so to speak. I hear about it through a lot of local growers and friends on Facebook, but the signs of the pandemic houseplant craze is dying. The cracks are starting to show, not necessarily you, but I have seen a lot of my other YouTubers I watch not posting as regularly, and their views not getting as many views either. Also, you can see it in the stores too. I remember walking into a big box or local nursery and there was almost always fresh plants weekly. Now you're lucky to find fresh plants once a month. The strong demand is just not there anymore. A lot of my local plant shops have also closed with only one open nearby left now. It's sad because the community, even with its flaws, has been great. I know there will always be us diehard planties around on some level, but just curious how this will affect things in the future. Yeah, I mean, I'm always like worried about that since I made houseplants and social media my job. Now, like, I worry about the future. It's something I do think about. I guess now, like, some of those people aren't into plants anymore, or they've downsized dramatically and they're not as active on social media and stuff anymore, but I don't really want to think negatively. Like, I potentially could have to find like something else for work. I hopefully have created an audience where people will continue to watch my videos even though they may not be into plants as much, but I also know like summer is kind of, I guess, a downtime because people are busy. It's nice out. Like, you got school starting like right now this time of year, so people are busy with that. Maybe people just aren't watching PlantTube as much. I mean, I feel like my views are, oh, that was probably the soil, the soil roots that rotted. Do you see that big chunk? Because you can see the healthy roots that have grown in. I was like, what the heck? I feel like it comes in waves. I mean, I still feel like I get like a decent amount of views, and I try not to stress about it too much, because sometimes if I worry too much about like the analytics of things and let it stress me out, like, I don't know, I just try not to let it think like that. I try to just continue to do what I've been doing, which I love not only sharing my plant collection, but I love sharing tips and tricks. I love teaching. I love helping. I think the teacher in me came from like nursing and educating. I love teaching, but there's a lot that I don't know, and I'm always learning, and like I want people to still enjoy my channel, and I just feel like if I'm gonna get rid of this leaf, it's yellowing. You know, if people are no longer interested in my channel, then I feel like they'll be, and that's totally fine. I mean, people change, people evolve, like maybe someone that used to watch me doesn't like watching me anymore and so on, or maybe there'll be someone new that ends up coming along that finds my videos and ends up, you know, wanting to watch. I'm sure it's with that with a lot of channels. It just comes in phases, and I try to make content that I enjoy, but I also that other people enjoy. And I feel like I'm always going to be doing something with plants, you know, whether that be like with my own shop or social media. I feel like there'll be a need somewhere or something with plants that I'll end up doing. I just don't see myself not working with plants anymore, just because I've made it my life like over the past 4 years. So we'll see. It's hard to say what's going to happen in time, but for right now, I just want to think about the present. I'm enjoying the plant shop and selling my plants while I can, and I'm enjoying making YouTube content while I can, and you know, hopefully it can continue. All right, let me rinse this little root system real quick under some water. What are some wish list plants that you have had that are just way out of your budget? I feel like I've honestly acquired a lot of wish list plants that were on my list this year. One that I know is like way out of my budget is a variegated pink caprea. I don't think I would ever own one of those in my collection. I just feel like they're far too expensive. Like I heard just a corm can be like a couple $1,000s. Maybe one day if I ever came across someone selling one, I don't know. I don't think I could ever fork that much money out on a plant though, because that's a lot of money. So I don't know. I don't know. I would love to have one day. And then I'm trying to think what else. Probably, honestly, I'd have to really think about wish list plants right now, because since I did acquire so many this year, I don't know if I have too many wish list ones left. I feel like I'm always probably going to want variegated alocasia. And there's so many, you know, varieties that I don't have that I would love to have one day. Like I would love to have a variegated maharani. I know that one is still pretty expensive. There's a lot that I want. Variegated alocasia wise. Hi Melissa, when you water, do you save leftover nutrient mixed water for a few days to use later? So this here I made up last night because I was watering last night, and so now this has like been sitting for like 12 plus hours. So when it sits like this, I don't prefer to use it, but I'm gonna go ahead and use it. If it's like the next day and I know I have watering to do, like I'll finish it off, but sometimes a little bit gets left in here and then it starts to turn a different color and I don't trust it, so I'll dump the rest out. But I only make up enough for like my watering day, and if I do have a little extra, then like I said, I try to use it like the next day or dump it back in my moss poles. I don't like to let it sit for more than a day because I have probably 6 or 7 jugs, and you know, usually I'll use them all and then I'll have to refill it once more, and then depending on how many plants I'm watering that day, sometimes I have to go back and fill up a couple more just to finish off the watering that I have to do. But yeah, I don't like to let it sit. I have here some like pond questions. So since I talked about pond a lot in my pond care video, I'll just link that video below because I go into a lot more detail about my pond care, transferring and stuff like that. Someone asked what's my process for taking plants out of the sponge plugs. I just take the plug off. Sometimes I pull off roots, but I usually, when I get plants like that are that small, I usually just stick them into stratum and they'll kind of rehab for a bit in stratum until they start growing in more roots, and then I'll transfer them out. But yeah, if they come in a tiny little sponge plug, yeah, I just kind of gently remove the plug, you know, as gently as I can, but sometimes a couple roots come off with it, but I don't put a sponge plug plant straight into soil and like pot up because I'm worried about them shocking. So that's why I let them kind of rehab and adjust in stratum for a bit. I have a monstera albo on a cocoa pole, plenty of light and feed regularly. Why are the leaves getting smaller, not larger? So it's getting plenty of light and you feed regularly. Why are the leaves getting smaller? When you say plenty of light and feed regularly, I would want to know, when you say plenty of light, what kind of light? Because that can make a difference depending on if you're using natural light, like which direction the window faces. Because even though a window looks bright, it may not be the best light coming in, depending on which direction it is. Because a south-facing or west-facing window is going to be completely different light than a north-facing window. So I would want to know that. Or if it's getting a grow light, then how close is it to the light? Have you like measured the foot candles at all? And then when you feed regularly, what's regularly to you? Because I feed once or twice a week. That's my regular. And then other people may feed, I don't know, once or twice a month, and that's regular to them. I would rather feed more than less. If you're looking to size up your plants and have them, one, grow better and faster and bigger leaves, I would feed more. And I would use a fertilizer, depending on what you're using, higher in nitrogen, because nitrogen is responsible for the big leafy leaves. So I would make sure to use one higher in nitrogen. And then if it's on a core pole, is the vine itself like anchoring onto the pole or is it off the pole? Because that'll help too, because if it can kind of anchor on, if it has anywhere for the roots to grab onto, it's going to help it climb and mature. But yeah, depending on the light and what feed and how often, I would say if it's getting smaller leaves, it just may not be, one, getting enough light and not enough feed. So you may need to increase both. So that is that one in there. This is the Bambino. So I have two Bambinos now. I have this one and then I have the smaller plug, which is growing like crazy. So cute. I'll have to add some water in there. Oh, do we have a corm already? Ooh, we have a corm already. Oh, that's exciting. Ooh, corm. Ooh, we have another corm. I was not expecting corms already. Yay, two. And here's another one, but it's pretty tiny. But it might come off. This one's tiny. I'm gonna go ahead and pluck it off. We got 3 corms, yay. You can see like the old soil roots compared to like the new healthy roots. That's why I like to do stratum. I just prefer to let them hang out in stratum for a bit. And then the transfer to pond is so much easier. Okay, I'll be back. I'm gonna rinse this off and go get one of those square self-watering pots, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have one of these OG pots. This is one that I had used previously. Yeah, I'll probably move away from these though. And that's the rinse root system, which is pretty good on that one. Okay. What is your favorite season and why? Fall. I love fall time. I would say I like spring too. So I don't know, I like all the seasons, but I would say my favorite is fall just because I love the fall time of year. I love the transition from the end of summer into fall. I love that the air is a bit more cool. It's not as humid, at least here. It's so sticky and muggy during the summer that it's just miserable. I like summer, but I just don't like the hot weather. I grew up in Ohio, so I was used to cold winters, and I don't know, I feel like there was more more of a season change, where here there's barely any spring. It gets hot so quickly. And the pollen, I don't like the pollen here in the spring. Like our entire patio gets covered in like yellow pollen dust, and all of our furniture and stuff gets covered in it. It's just so gross. But I do like spring. It's just, I just know that it's gonna get hot very quickly here. And I like the winters here too, because even though it can get cold in the 30s, I actually don't mind that kind of temperature. My husband hates it though. He hates winter. He doesn't like being cold. But I love fall. I just like, I don't know, I like the pumpkin spice and the fall time. I don't know, I just love it. I love that I can start wearing sweaters and just sweats, be more cozy, and then we can turn like our fireplace on. I don't know, I just like the warm, cozy vibes of fall. Do I still spray my plants with silica? No. So my nutrient regimen, I add silica in here now. Let me get my little basket. This is my nutrient regimen. So I'll link my pond video because I go over this. So silica is the first thing that I add, oops, in my water, silica. And then I will add extra cow mag, not every week. And then I have my Foliage Pro. I use my stress coat, removes chlorine, and then I add my pH down. So that is my cocktail. And that creates this beautiful, yummy mix for my plants. And I use that on everybody. But no, I stopped spraying silica. I only did that for like a month, and then I didn't realize I was using beneficial mites at the time, and I didn't want to hurt them by spraying them with silica. And silica too, if you don't dilute it enough or it drips on your plants, it can burn the foliage. And I just didn't spray. I just didn't want to spray anymore. So yeah, I add it in my water. I use the Thiccly grow lights, and I get so worried to leave them on as they get so hot. How often do you have them on for? Do you recommend any that don't get hot? I burnt myself on them a few times. The Thiccly ones do get hot, like the bigger wattage ones. I know the 36 watt, I have a few of those, and they do get pretty hot, but I guess I don't really touch them or get close to them. You can try putting them inside of something like to protect the outer bulb. That way you don't get burnt. I have one in it's like a rattan kind of boho lampshade. You could do one of those around it. And my other ones are in, you know, an actual lamp that has a few adjustable heads, and so it's protected on the outside. You could try that. But yeah, if you're just having the bulb hanging by itself, they do get hot. So I would just cover it somehow like a lampshade, and hopefully that helps. But I feel like most of my bulbs get pretty hot, and they run, I feel like most of my grow lights are on 10 to 12 hours, I would say. Sometimes I cut them back in the summertime just because it gets so hot with all the grow lights on. Look how cute. Okay. So that is that one. I have so many to water through. Before I water them all, let me use some of this stratum. I'll just have to pick the old roots out here, the rotted roots. Most of this is good stratum, and I'm just gonna reuse these cups that the alocasia were just in, and then we'll do the top cut separately because I'm keeping that for me. And then we'll do the 4 mid cuts. Maybe we'll do 2 and 2. We'll do 2 and 2 because I have 3 cups here. And then we have our corms to do too. And then we'll get to finishing up. I feel like I've been talking a while. So Kayla asked, how do you feel when plant YouTubers, influencers, complaining about not having time to do their job, e.g. frequently complaining about filming or caring for their plants? I'm not talking about burnout or having trouble juggling a shop or other career creating content, but people whose sole job is YouTube, social media. Well, I feel like for me, I mean, I can't really speak for anyone else, but for me, just like when I didn't have the shop, I would say I definitely had a lot more time to dedicate to, say, Instagram. Like I was posting twice a day on Instagram, and that's how I grew such a big following. Because when I first started, Reels didn't come out, and then I felt like I grew majority of my following on Instagram like after that, and when Instagram was more popular. But I definitely feel like Instagram has died down quite a bit. I just feel like, I don't know, at least I am a little kind of burnt out with Instagram now. I feel like I'm not even barely posting anymore, but something had to fall in the sense of like with the shop now, I just can't keep up with all the social media. But I definitely had more time before the plant shop. I had time to like do other things and make other content, and I was very, very consistent there for a while. But definitely with the shop, it just takes up so much more of my time, where that's kind of like my main priority. And then I still want to try and focus on doing a couple YouTube videos a week if I can keep up with doing it. I definitely haven't been posting as many because it's just, like I said, it's harder to do. And especially for longer videos, they just take a while for me to edit, and I can't do as many videos as I once was able to. But I mean, I can't speak for other people, but the way I see it is like, I don't know what other people are going through in their lives. And there's a lot of things that I may be going through too that you guys don't know. And because I just choose not to put things on the internet, and I could have a lot of things going on outside of this. And it's hard to really, you can't really like know someone or judge someone based off what you see online, because again, like you guys are only seeing a small part of what I choose to share about my life and everything here, but I am just focused on me. I'm not really paying attention to what I guess other creators are doing. And I'm just so focused on my shop, or I have been so focused on that this year. And I started my website last fall, like started working on it, that I was just so preoccupied that I don't even really watch much PlantTube and stuff now anymore. Sometimes I put a video on recently while I'm packing orders for the day, but I don't do that all the time because I feel like I can't focus on that and pack orders, if that makes sense. I used to watch a lot more back in the day when I was getting into plants, but now I just, as a plant tuber now too, I feel like my life revolves around plants and doing plant stuff, that I don't want to watch plant stuff in my downtime, if that makes sense. I would rather like do stuff with my husband or watch a different show or do something else other than plant stuff. As much as I love plants, I don't want plants to be like my entire life, you know. I have to have other hobbies and do other things other than plant stuff all the time. Yeah, and then other people could have like families, other stuff going on, so it's hard to really say what other people are going through. Used stratum is so messy when when it's already wet. Cassie wrote, "Hi Melissa, I love your channel and your plants are amazing. Thank you so much. I have a question about Fluval Stratum. Do you care to share the brand that you use?" So this here is the brand is Fluval. So I get it off Amazon. I can put like a picture of it right here. That's what I get. You can get it, I think, at pet stores too. I'm not sure how to go about watering. So when I use stratum, I'm just using a cup like this. It's like a plastic cup. It doesn't have any drain holes. I just dump the stratum in like this, and I add a little water until I can see the water level about 3/4 full. And it usually, depending on how rooted the plant is in it, it'll drink up water more quickly if there's more roots. But if it's just a cutting like this, just establishing with no roots yet, you don't need like a ton of water in here. You're just like risking rotting and everything else. But I would say I fill it up at least like halfway. And then once I notice the level getting low, and it becomes lighter in color too when it's not moist anymore. So I think if this is like perlite or pond, it'll continue to wick up. So like I don't need to add any more water in here because this is still damp from this being moist already. So I would say generally I have to water my stratum once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the plant, like if it's more rooted. And also if it's in my cabinet, my Ikea cabinet, it's pretty warm in my plant room. Usually my stratum dries out a lot quicker in my plant room. Oh no, am I gonna have to use my fingers for this? Well, they're already dirty. Okay, I'm gonna use my fingers for this. Sierra asked, what are your thoughts and process of rinsing, sanitizing your used pond? I've seen you just boil it in hot water for 10-15 minutes, but I feel like there should be more to it. Love your videos so much and your fur babies. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much, Sierra. Yeah, I'll just take it outside and I'll spray it off to rinse it with the hose. And the last time I boiled it, one of my big, containers, I dumped it all in there and just dumped boiling hot water in it and let it sit in there for like 30 minutes. And then I dumped it out, and that's all I did to sanitize it. I tried boiling on my stove one time, but I didn't really have the proper stuff to do that, and it just made a mess. And yeah, so I dumped the used pond in a container, dumped the boiling water, let it soak for like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and call it a day. And then I'll just rinse it and put it back in my container after it dries. Oh my gosh, there's so many more questions. Okay, here's another one with the plant shop. What tips would you give for someone who wants to start a business selling plants? Or what tips would you have liked to have known from the start? I feel like for me, I kind of went crazy in the fact that I felt like I had to have everything up front to start selling plants, and you definitely don't. You can create your stickers or shop card or get more supplies down the road, and I definitely be prepared to get a lot more boxes than you need, different box sizes, because I definitely didn't have enough of the right sizes at first, because I bought huge boxes to ship one little plant in, and they were too big. So it takes a while to figure out the size of box that actually works best for the plants that you're selling and everything. So it's a lot better now. I would say I was a little anxious at first shipping and packing plants. I pack a little bit differently than I did now, but I was a little anxious because I shipped with USPS. I highly recommend or suggest not shipping through USPS. There's just so many delays. I would ship with UPS, honestly, and I don't know, you just have to find what's gonna work best for you, because UPS shipping works so much better for me now. They're more reliable. The store is a few miles from me, so I can easily go and drop a package off and not have to drive for very long. It's just way more convenient, and I love being super close to a UPS store. I would say think about the type of plants that you're gonna sell, because when you're selling just cheap plants, you're not really profiting much. If you think about the cost of shipping and all the supplies and everything that goes into it. And also I would say it took me a while to figure out my shop policies and everything as well. Depending on where you sell on, if you have your own website, obviously you can create your own policies. I understand you need to not eat all the profit either, but you also want to make it where people feel like they can purchase from you. If you offer free shipping over a certain dollar amount, or a 10% off code, or you can include freebies in with your packages. Sometimes I do that. Just little things to make yourself stand out, I guess, or would want to make someone to repurchase from you, because your customers, you wouldn't be able to sell without your customers. So you want to make sure that you're making them happy, but you don't want to get taken advantage of as well. So it's a lot to figure out and to think about, but I would say if you're in it for the right reasons, if you like growing plants, if you like propagating, and I would say you have to put a lot of care into them and make sure they don't have pests, and to be on top, you have to be on top of that, because the shop plants kind of have higher priority over my own collection. I put watering them before my own plants, because Like if I keep underwatering my shop plants, then they're not going to grow well and they're going to get sad. And I don't want to sell like unhappy plants to people. So if you're someone who frequently gets stressed or overwhelmed, I would say it may be a lot if you have like a big collection. If you don't have a big collection and you're just focused on selling, then it would be easier. But if you have a big collection to maintain and you're trying to sell plants, it can be a lot, because sometimes I do get overwhelmed. Okay, let me rinse these fingers off, and then I'm gonna grab a bucket and a water and water everyone. We'll answer a few more questions and finish up. What I wanna do with these corms is just stick them in one of my corm containers. I have to rinse these off. I'll just do that on my own time, but we'll just water everyone real quick. See, I'm just gonna grab a plant and add a little water. Someone asked, while having a plant shop business and caring for all your plants, will we be seeing less YouTube videos? I would say I'm doing the best I can. I love YouTube, and I feel like I'm always gonna be doing YouTube. It has been a bit of a struggle trying to keep up. It depends on the week though, but I'm at least gonna shoot for 2 videos a week. Sometimes it might be 3. I don't really have like a set schedule or anything, but just whenever I can film and get a video up for you guys, I'm gonna keep doing my best to upload as much as I can. But I do have a Patreon as well, which I upload once a month for them, like my Patreon and then my Instagram subscribers. They're I treat them all the same. But yeah, I love YouTube and everything, so I'm gonna do my best to keep up with everything. Is it possible to buy plants from you without fighting for a plant with all your followers? I have tried multiple times, and by the time I go to your website, everything is gone. Yeah, I would say the biggest advice is, so once it's 4 o'clock, I click a button on my site and make all the plants that I'm selling that week visible. And so I would say try to be on right on the dot at 4 Eastern. A lot of people like have their contact already, like they've already filled out everything, so everything's there. So I see people sometimes putting stuff in their carts before the sale. That way all they have to do is add a plant and check out. Some people pay through like PayPal or Apple Pay so that their information, they don't have to type it in, and it's a quicker checkout process. I'm trying though to have more availability on the site at different times other than the restock time. And so some people have been able to just like randomly go on the site and there's plants available, and then they can check out without having to take part in the restock. But it's hard to do that. It's hard to like dedicate time to, because it is a lot of work to take the plant photos and to do the listing. And so to do that more than once a week is hard enough. So I try to set aside a few plants or so that I can list either before the restock or after the restock that I can make available, because I like to just take the photos all in one day for that week, and that way I'm not having to like take more time. And I don't know if that makes sense. That's a lot of work. So to have plants on there multiple times during the week is a bit much for me to kind of manage. It's easier just to have them during the restock time, but I am trying to make it easier or more of a way for more people to check out. And I honestly was not expecting my restocks to sell the way that they have been selling. I was not expecting all the plants to sell out like they have, and I don't know, I just thought I was gonna have plants on there and people would be able to go on my site at their own time and buy what they would like to buy and browse around. I did not think I'd be selling out every week like I have been, and yeah, so that's why I'm trying to add more plants on there at random times. It's just hard. It's hard to manage and keep up with that and the restock time. But I'm doing the best I can, and hopefully, like as my plant shop is open more, I feel like I would need help to be able to like sell and manage more than what I'm doing. So I'm just not there yet. I don't remember which one of these I'm not supposed to be watering, so I'm just watering them all. I'll just be careful next time I go to water. Since you've added a few new plants that are truly exciting to collect, do you have a favorite yet amongst them? I probably have to give it to the alocasia, I feel like, and this caramel marble is freaking gorgeous. I know I'm gonna love this one so much. I'm just gonna give this one a little bit of a drink. This one's definitely gonna grow on me, definitely, because I just love all the colors and the tone. And I've seen these mature online and they're just so pretty. It's one that I'm definitely excited for. And I really like this one too. This variegation is so stunning. I love this one. I love this one more now, because when I got it, it was a little bit sad. And then, I don't know, just taking this top cutting and starting from here is just gonna make me love this plant even more. So I just love it. I love the way that it's growing. I have a lot of new Hoyas that I love too. So there's a lot. It's hard to pick favorites. A lot of them I love. Do you guys hear those birdies chirping? And so since this alocasia is just establishing, I'm not going to leave any extra water in here. Whatever continues to drip from the runoff will be all that I'm putting in here, and then I'll just like water over the top once it starts to dry. I've started leaving less water in the ones that are more prone to getting edema, I've noticed. Some of these are so hard to pick up. Okay, and these are all still pretty moist, so I'm not gonna water these guys yet. Yummy, yummy. I'll probably dump this in a plant outside because of that nutrient water. I know there's more, but honestly, my mouth is so tired of talking, but thank you guys so much for all the questions. I had a lot of fun answering them. Again, I'm sorry it took me forever to get to this. I don't even know if you guys remember asking these questions. So I'll try next time I do this. I'll probably do one maybe in 2-3 more months. I'll try and get on it a lot quicker. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to pot up a lot of my plants. They're so pretty. I love these so much. And this Caracia Silver, oh, she's beautiful. Look at all these variegated tetrasperm I have now. All these cuttings, but this beautiful top cut's for me. She's gorgeous. And then this bottom one, it will continue to grow. So yeah, very happy with everything. I got a lot accomplished. So I am going to clean up my mess and plant these corms, and yeah, I'll probably work on editing this video and get this up for you guys. But thank you again so much for being here, for all your questions, for all your support. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.